Good morning, welcome to Weston Nurseries of Lincoln. I'm Suzanne Thatcher, I'm the store manager here, and today we're going to talk about a group of my very favorite plants in the nursery, the roses that we have here today. We're talking about roses today because June is their peak month. This is a group of plants that look wonderful all through the month of June and really adds some high points to color in your garden during that month. So many folks associate growing roses with having flowers to cut and take in the house, and that's a wonderful thing, feels very rewarding as a gardener. I wanted to show you some of the different forms today and how the different groups of plants relate to the types of flowers you may be used to purchasing as cuts. For example, this is a hybrid tea plant. So hybrid tea rose is a group that has these long, strong stems, typically topped by just one blossom. Because they do have the long stems, they are great for cut. It's a good idea when you cut them to take indoors that you cut them in the bud stage and they will last much longer inside. This, on the other hand, is a floribunda rose. These plants grow more rounded in form, less upright than the hybrid tea. These would equate to spray roses that you might purchase as cut flowers. Both of these are some of the longest lasting cut flowers that you can grow in your own garden. Very rewarding. The one is always going to be further ahead than the others, but cut it when some of the buds are still tight for them to last. We're going to talk about where you would cut these later in the video. So the term climbing roses is a bit of a misnomer because roses don't actually climb. They do of course put out thorns, but you as the gardener will be responsible for attaching the long canes to the structure that it's growing up and allowing it to continue growing, but it will need that support and that little bit of help from you. These will have many strong upright canes and will bloom up and down the stems. Many of these varieties are repeat bloomers and will go for a long time during the season, as are most of the roses we're going to talk about today. The modern day roses have been bred to bloom in flushes throughout the season. The next group of roses we're going to talk about is the shrub roses. If you're just looking for a massive landscape color and you're not so worried about having flowers to cut and take in, there are no more colorful shrubs in the landscape than roses. Not many woody plants bloom for more than 3 weeks, whereas these will bloom throughout the season, given adequate amounts of sunshine and some regular fertilization. I should stop at that point and say that all roses do require a minimum of 6 hours of direct sunlight. And ideally, if you can get that to include the middle of the day sun, any of the flowers are going to be more prolific. So everybody at this point is probably familiar with the knockout roses. This is one of the newest in that collection. This one is called Easy Beasy Knockout. It has this lovely pale yellow blossom which fades to sort of a creamy color, and what I like about it, it has some very glossy foliage, and glossy foliage is often an indication of health. Roses with glossy foliage can withstand a lot of the problems from fungus and bacteria, so things like powdery mildew and black spot. It makes them more resistant to those diseases, so that's a good thing to look for. A couple of the others we're showing here are Bonica, which has been in the market for a very, very long time. It's a lovely plant, a beautiful soft pink, works with most other things in the landscape. And because their buds are actually quite tight, these can even be cut as a little bouquet if you wanted to take it and put it in a little bud vase inside. This, on the other hand, is the iceberg rose. This is one that's been on the market for a very, very long time and is a very traditional landscape plant. It doesn't have as many petals per flower, and it won't work very well as a cut flower, but as a reliable landscape plant, and white doesn't argue with anything, so you can use that anywhere in the landscape. So this one here is an example of a Rugosa rose, or known as the beach roses. You'll see them up and down our coastal beaches everywhere in New England. They are typically in pink or in white, and they flower throughout the summer months, and then they have these beautiful orangey red hips through the fall, and the birds love them. But they are a very prickly addition to the garden, so make sure you place them where you won't be doing a lot of intricate weeding around. That's why I always have gloves with me when I'm talking about roses. Now we're going to talk about one of my very favorite groups in the garden, and it's not just because I'm English, but these are David Austin English roses. And what I love about these is they have been bred to incorporate many of the features of the other groups of roses that we've already spoken about. So unlike the stiff upright forms of the hybrid teas, They are a better shaped garden plant in very many cases. They are bushier and rounder, not quite as upright and formal, and very, very intricate petal count. A lot of them have these lovely deep cupped blossoms and so many petals that they are very fragrant. This one here is Boscobel. It's a lovely salmony or corally pink with a bit of peach in it. And some of these are also very, very hardy. This is Charlotte, which is a lovely pale yellow. And I don't know if you can see on camera, but there are hardly any thorns on these stems. So if you're somebody who doesn't like to always have to put their gloves on to go out in their rose garden, this one could be for you. It's a very, very hardy plant, very disease resistant, low maintenance, and very, very good performer. These are a couple of other David Austin varieties that can be grown as short climbers, meaning they are bigger shrubs. And if you choose to stake them up and have them climb onto maybe a picket fence or split rail fence or even onto a trellis, they can develop canes in the 6 to 8 foot range. But again, they have that lovely fragrance. Again, they are beautiful cut flowers, and I would again recommend you cut them in the bud stage, something like this one here. The pink one here is called Strawberry Hill, and the red is Tess of the d'Urbervilles. As with anything else in your garden that you do want to keep in bloom, a regular fertilization program is important. This is a nice organic rose fertilizer, and as the flowers do tend to rebloom in flushes, it will need to be reapplied per the package instructions, but generally every 3 to 4 weeks, so you give the plants the energy to rebloom. So we just wanted to show you how to deadhead a rose. Everybody's probably heard that term, but not necessarily familiar with what the stages are. But the point of deadheading is to take off any of these spent blossoms, which might otherwise fall and cause issues in terms of the plant health in the long run. Dead petals or hanging on can accumulate fungal and disease spores, so we want to get those off. And that being said, I should also mention that along with the 6 hours of sunshine, it's really important to avoid overhead irrigation where roses are concerned, because that would of course exacerbate any problems. So avoid sprinklers. Water with a watering wand at the end of a hose right at the base of the plant. Reach that wand right in underneath the foliage, or give the plants a watering can full of water over the soil only and not over the foliage. So there are 2 stages to the deadheading. In this group of flowers on this stem, I'm just going to take off the spent middle blossom as it came out first, just to again get rid of those petals that could cause problems. In this instance, where there is only 1 flower on this stem, we're going to take this flower off. We're following down the stem, and we can see that the first group of leaves below the existing flower is just a group of 3. If we follow the stem further down to the next group of 5 leaves, there's a little nub in the center here, the axial where the leaf meets the stem. There's a little pink nub. That is going to produce the next flower stem. So we're going to cut off the existing stem at that point. We're going to use about a 45-degree angle, about 1/4 to 1/8 of an inch above that leaf stem. And we're trying to open up the plant to make sure air and light can get down there to keep the plant healthy. So we're just going to do this, and then hopefully you can stand back and see that the plant itself looks better. There we go. How does that look now? Is that better? Much better. This one is an example of a standard rose. A rose has been grafted onto the top of a different rose stem, and it's grown as like a mini tree for the garden. These really are a bit of a labor of love because they produce so many small flowers, and you want to constantly keep it in a nice flower form because it's a more formal looking plant. A group of flowers that's gone by like this and a stem that's drooping, it may be best just to clip that one right off. And again, in these little clusters of flowers, we'll be taking off the spent blossoms. Some people love doing this, find it very therapeutic, but it is definitely quite a bit of work. Thanks very much for watching, and remember to subscribe to Weston Nurseries for more videos on all your favorite plants.